Last night you were somewhere else. Not imagining it, living it. A hallway with the wrong geometry. A face you loved, speaking in a voice you've never heard. Fear that felt chemically real. And all of it appeared with 0 photons hitting your eyes. So here's the uncomfortable question. If your brain can manufacture a world that convincing in the dark, what, exactly, is waking reality made of? I'm Rowan K. Mercer, and this is the Science Audit. Tonight we're taking a mystery that feels spiritual, psychological, and biological all at once, and we're going to pressure test it with evidence. The audit question is simple to ask and hard to sit with. If dreams are just noise, why are they so structured, so emotional, so common across humans, and even across many animals? Because dreams aren't rare glitches. They're a nightly continent you keep visiting, whether you remember the trip or not. And the stakes aren't abstract. Nightmares can reshape a life. Trauma dreams can reopen wounds with surgical precision. And sometimes a dream hands you a creative breakthrough, an image, a melody, a solution that feels like it came from somewhere outside you. Yet it didn't. It came from you. Which means we have a deeper, existential unease underneath the science. If the brain can fabricate a fully immersive reality while your body lies motionless, then waking life may not be the opposite of dreaming. Waking life may be dreaming with guardrails, dreaming constrained by sensory data, social feedback, and physics. So here are the rules of the audit, and you can hold me to them. We'll compare the leading theories by 3 criteria. First, what they claim dreams are for. Second, what the brain's chemistry and circuitry actually does during sleep, especially during REM and NREM. Third, what evidence supports or challenges each idea. No mystical shortcuts. No lazy reductionism. Just an honest attempt to see what survives contact with reality. Now, come with me into the known universe. Not the galaxy. The nightly cosmos inside your skull. Picture your sleep like a tide that rises and falls. You don't just go to sleep and then dream. You cycle. Over and over. Roughly every 90 minutes, your brain shifts state, like a theater changing sets while the audience, your conscious self, has left the building. There's NREM sleep, non-rapid eye movement, and there's REM sleep, rapid eye movement. People often treat REM as synonymous with dreaming, because REM dreams can be cinematic, vivid scenes, strong emotion, narrative momentum. But dreaming is not exclusive to REM. You can dream in NREM too. Those dreams are often more thought-like, fragmentary, more like concepts drifting than movies playing. But they are dreams. NREM has layers. Early in the night you tend to sink into deeper NREM, including slow-wave sleep, named for the slow, rolling electrical rhythms you can see on an EEG. If you've ever felt like you dropped into a black lake and woke up hours later not sure who you are for a second, that's the flavor. Later in the night, REM periods get longer. The tide changes. The theater brings out brighter lights, internally. So what changes in the brain when you cross that border? Let's translate the jargon into something you can feel. Neurochemistry is the brain's weather. Not metaphorically, functionally. Different chemicals bias the whole system towards certain behaviors, like humidity influencing fire. In REM sleep, acetylcholine tends to be high. Think of acetylcholine as a chemical that sharpens internal signal processing, turning up the gain, increasing activity in sensory and associative regions. It's part of why REM can feel crisp, detailed, immediate. Meanwhile, norepinephrine and serotonin are typically low in REM. If acetylcholine is the vivid projector, norepinephrine is the brain's alertness and threat balancing system, the signal that says, "This matters, pay attention, evaluate consequences." Serotonin is a deep modulator of mood, stability, and constraint. When those are dialed down, you get a mind that generates intense experiences, with fewer reality checks. That chemical recipe helps explain something you've probably experienced. In a dream, absurdity doesn't trigger the skepticism it should. A door opens into the ocean. Your childhood dog starts talking. Someone you know is also someone else. And the dream you just nods, as if reality has always been this flexible. Now look at the circuitry, the networks. In many REM dreams, the limbic system, including emotion-related regions like the amygdala, can be quite active. That's the brain's emotional amplifier. Not fear, only salience. Importance. The feeling that something counts. At the same time, parts of the prefrontal cortex, your executive oversight, your planning, your skeptical editor, are often less active. That's like letting an orchestra play without a conductor. You still get music. Sometimes breathtaking music. But the structure can warp. Themes can recur without explanation. The story can jump tracks. And because the internal editor is quiet, the dream doesn't get flagged as impossible. Here's another subtlety most people miss. Dreaming and dream recall are not the same event. You can dream and forget it completely. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. It means the memory didn't get stored in a way your waking brain can retrieve. Memory is not a camera. It's a negotiation. To remember a dream, you often need a moment of wakefulness, an awakening, where your brain shifts into a mode that can encode the experience into long-term memory. If you don't surface near the end of a dream, it can evaporate like breath on glass. So already, you and I have a critical constraint on every theory. Whatever dreams are doing, they may be doing it even when you never consciously collect the evidence. Which means dreams can't be reduced to stories you remember. They're brain states, often private, often unreported, and likely doing their work in silence. Now the audit. We have several major theories. None of them are perfect. But each is trying to explain a real pattern, the universality, the emotion, the structure, and the bizarre logic of the dream world. I'm going to walk you through them like we're examining artifacts on a table, turning each one in the light, looking for cracks. First, activation synthesis. This is the classic idea that dreams are the brain making sense of random activity. The brainstem fires signals during sleep. The cortex, your meaning-making layer, tries to interpret them. Like hearing static and starting to imagine a voice. Like seeing shapes in clouds. The strength of activation synthesis is that it explains the weirdness. If the inputs are noisy, the outputs will be surreal. It also fits with the fact that in REM, the brain is highly active but missing some of the normal executive supervision. You get a lot of internal chatter, and the storyteller in your cortex does what storytellers do: it stitches. It invents continuity. But here's the weakness: dreams aren't only random. Many people have recurring themes. Emotional arcs. Social situations. Repeated anxieties. And across cultures you see common motifs: being chased, falling, teeth crumbling, arriving unprepared. If dreams were purely noise interpretation, why would the noise so often resolve into the same kinds of meaning? You could argue, because the brain is always the same kind of meaning maker. But that starts to sound like we're smuggling function back in through the side door. So activation synthesis passes part of the audit, especially for explaining bizarreness, but it struggles to explain why the randomness seems to keep circling the same emotional magnets. Second, threat simulation theory. This one is blunt and evolutionary. It says dreams are rehearsal. A virtual reality training ground where you practice responding to danger. Not consciously. Automatically. The idea is, our ancestors who could simulate threats at night had an advantage during the day. Their brains ran drills. Their reactions got tuned. This theory fits certain facts beautifully: the prevalence of anxiety dreams, the frequency of pursuit scenarios, the way fear can be so visceral in REM. It also makes sense across species. If animals have REM-like sleep, maybe they're running threat rehearsals too. But then the audit asks a harsh question: if dreams are for threat rehearsal, why do so many dreams contain no threats at all? Why do we dream about conversations, about romance, about embarrassing ourselves at a party, about losing our phone, about flying over a city that doesn't exist? And here's another challenge: threats are culturally shaped. A person in a war zone may dream differently than a person whose primary daily fear is social rejection. If threat simulation is the core function, then the brain isn't just rehearsing predator attacks, it's rehearsing whatever your world has taught you to fear. That starts to blur into a more general theory: dreams simulate salience, not just danger. So threat simulation gets credit for explaining why nightmares are common, and why fear is such a dominant dream ingredient. But it doesn't fully account for the richness and range of dream life. Third, memory consolidation and integration. This is one of the most scientifically grounded ideas, because we already know sleep matters for memory. If you deprive people of sleep, learning suffers. Skill acquisition suffers. Emotional memories behave differently. The brain is clearly doing data management at night. Think of your daily life as stuffing papers into a backpack. Receipts, letters, photos, urgent documents. By night, the backpack is overloaded. Sleep is when the brain empties it onto the floor, sorts it into folders, decides what to keep, and connects new information to old maps. In this view, dreams might be the felt experience of that sorting process, or a byproduct of it. The brain is replaying fragments of recent experience, mixing them with older memories, extracting patterns. That could produce dream narratives that feel meaningful because they're literally made of meaning-bearing material, your memories. The strength here is clear. It aligns with what we know about hippocampal replay and systems consolidation, the way memories can shift from temporary storage to more distributed networks. It also explains why dreams often incorporate day residue, little details from your waking life, But the weakness is just as important. Mapping dream content directly onto consolidation mechanisms is hard. The brain can consolidate without producing a story you can report. And many consolidation processes are invisible to subjective experience. So when someone dreams about a talking elevator that reminds them of their grandmother, is that consolidation? Or is that your narrator painting over a more mechanistic process? Memory theory is strong, but it risks treating the dream as a readable transcript of brain filing, when it might be more like the sound the filing cabinet makes, informative, but not a literal document. Fourth, emotional regulation. This theory is sometimes called overnight therapy, especially for REM. The proposal is that dreaming helps process emotional experiences, reducing their sting, integrating them, recontextualizing them. And the neurochemistry supports the idea. REM has low norepinephrine, which in waking life is associated with stress and fight or flight. If you replay emotional memories in a state with reduced stress chemistry, you might decouple the memory from the panic. That's a powerful idea because it links to something painfully real, PTSD. People with PTSD often have intense nightmares, and their sleep architecture can be altered. If dreams are part of emotional regulation, then when that system breaks, the dreams may become haunted, repetitive, stuck. But the audit doesn't let us romanticize it. Measuring, emotion processing, is tricky. Sleep doesn't always improve mood in the same way for everyone. Some people wake up heavier. And if dreams are therapy, why do trauma dreams sometimes re-traumatize? Why do they replay the worst moments with IMAX realism? So emotional regulation remains plausible, even compelling, but it forces us to address an uncomfortable possibility. Dreaming may be an attempted repair mechanism that can fail, like a wound healing process that sometimes forms painful scar tissue. Fifth, predictive processing, or the generative model view. This is the most unifying, and the most dangerous, because it can explain everything if you let it. So we have to be careful. Here's the metaphor. Your brain is not a camera. It's a prediction machine. Waking perception is like a live hallucination that is constantly corrected by sensory data. Your brain predicts what you're about to see, hear, and feel, and then it updates those predictions using incoming signals. When the signals match the predictions, reality feels stable. When they don't, you notice and you learn. Dreaming, in this framework, is what happens when the prediction machine runs with minimal external correction. The world input channel is mostly offline. The brain generates a reality anyway, because generating reality is what it does. Dreams become a kind of offline training mode. The system samples scenarios, tests expectations, recombines models, and explores the space of possible worlds. The strength is immense. It links dreaming to perception, imagination, and even hallucination in a single continuum. It explains why dreams can be vivid, why they can be bizarre, why they can be emotional, because they're the generative engine running without a supervisor. The weakness is also immense. If you're not precise, predictive processing becomes unfalsifiable. If everything is prediction, then any dream can be explained after the fact. The audit demands predictions we can test. What would have to change in the brain, in measurable ways, if this theory is true? Now, at this point, it's tempting to pick a favorite and declare victory. But dreams are not a single thing. They're a phenomenon that likely contains multiple functions, multiple byproducts, multiple layers, like a city that grew over centuries. So we move to the edge of understanding, where the paradoxes live. Paradox 1. Dreams feel meaningful, but meaning might be a storyteller's after effect. Let's make this visceral. You wake up with your heart racing. You remember a dream. Your brother is standing on a bridge, and he turns into a stranger, and you can't speak. You feel like it means something. Maybe it does. Or maybe your waking mind is doing what humans do best, pattern finding. We are narrative engines. We take fragments and we weave them into fate. So the question becomes, how do we separate function from interpretation? If the brain produces a dream for one reason, say, memory integration, and you interpret it as a symbol of betrayal, which is real, the experience is real. The interpretation may be useful. But usefulness is not the same as biological function. Paradox 2. REM deprivation studies are messy. In the lab, you can wake people up when they enter REM, and you can suppress REM. But the brain fights back. It rebounds. It claws its way into REM later, as if something essential is being withheld. Mood changes can occur. Cognitive effects can appear. But clean causal links to dream content are elusive, because you've altered the entire ecology of sleep. It's like trying to study the purpose of rain by turning off the water cycle and observing the drought. So we know REM matters. We suspect dreaming is connected. But the exact mapping, REM equals function X and dream narrative equals mechanism Y, keeps slipping through our fingers. Paradox 3. Why do some dreams solve problems or generate art? You've heard the stories. A melody arrives in a dream, a scientific insight, a plot twist, a design. The dream loosens constraints. It allows distant ideas to collide. That sounds like a feature. Like the brain is doing creative search. But evolution doesn't necessarily build features for art. It builds systems for survival and reproduction. Creativity might be a side effect of a brain that's good at recombining models. Or it might be a genuine advantage, innovation, social strategy, tool use, storytelling. The audit question is sharp. Is creativity in dreams the purpose, or is it the sparks from an engine built for something else? Now we come to the nightmare problem, the hardest test for any comforting theory. If dreaming is therapy, why do we relive trauma with such realism? If dreaming is prediction training, why would the training sometimes break us? If dreaming is memory consolidation, why would the brain keep reopening a file that burns to touch? There are several hypotheses here, and none are fully satisfying yet. 1. Nightmares are threat rehearsal turned up too high, an alarm system stuck in sensitivity mode. 2. Nightmares are maladaptive loops, where the brain's attempt to integrate trauma fails, and repetition becomes a groove. 3. Nightmares may involve memory reconsolidation gone wrong. Reconsolidation is a key concept. When you recall a memory, it can become labile, soft again, before it restores. That softness is an opportunity for updating, but also a vulnerability. If sleep reactivates traumatic memory traces, the brain might be attempting to update them. But if the emotional chemistry is dysregulated, the update could reinforce fear instead of relieving it. That's not poetic. It's tragic. It means that for some people, the night is not a sanctuary. It's an arena where the brain fights itself with the weapons of realism and sensation. And if you've lived that, I want to say this plainly. The fact that your brain can generate terror does not mean you are broken. It means the simulation engine is powerful, and sometimes, power without balance becomes pain. Now, one of the most fascinating probes we have into all of this is lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is when you become aware you're dreaming while still inside the dream. It's like the executive control network. The inner supervisor walks back into the theater mid-film and says, "Hold on. This isn't the world. This is a model of the world." When that happens, the dream often changes. People report more control, less fear, more deliberate exploration. Not always. Lucidity can be unstable, but it's a clue. It suggests that when prefrontal metacognition re-engages, the simulation becomes less tyrannical. The narrative can become an experiment instead of a chase. As a thought experiment, consider what lucid dreaming implies. The dream world is not just a random fireworks display. It's a constructed environment that can be negotiated with. Executive networks can modulate it. Attention can reshape it. That's a hint that dreams are not merely noise, they're a generative system responsive to control signals. Now let's be intellectually honest about the frontier. There are questions we can't answer cleanly yet, but we can frame them in ways that science can attack. First, are dreams primarily for the individual, learning, emotion, calibration, or are they evolutionary byproducts, like the glow of a hot engine? The glow isn't for anything, but it's inseparable from the mechanism. Dreams might be like that, the subjective glow of neuromaintenance. Or they might be a selected feature that improves survival. Or both, layered across time. Second, what would falsify each theory? This is where the audit becomes real. If we can't imagine evidence that would prove us wrong, we're not doing science, we're doing storytelling. Activation synthesis could be challenged if we find consistent, function-specific dream structures that track with measurable learning outcomes beyond what random activation would predict. Threat simulation would be weakened if threat-relevant dream content doesn't correlate with improved threat response or with ecological relevance across individuals. Memory consolidation models need tighter links between reactivation signatures and specific kinds of dream incorporation. Emotional regulation theories must predict when sleep should reduce emotional reactivity, and when it should not, based on measurable neuromodulator states. Predictive processing needs specificity. Change the priors, change the dream. Change neuromodulators, change the coherence of the generated world in quantifiable ways. And this suggests testable predictions that are actually exciting. If we manipulate neuromodulators, ethically and carefully, should dream narrative coherence shift? Should emotional tone shift? Should we see measurable integration signatures in brain activity and in behavior the next day? If we enhance prefrontal engagement during REM, via stimulation or training, does lucidity increase, and do nightmares decrease? If we modulate norepinephrine during sleep, Do trauma dreams change in intensity? These are not fantasies. These are experiments waiting to be refined. Third, do animals dream in analogous ways? We see REM-like patterns in many mammals and birds. We see twitching, vocalizations, physiological changes. In some cases, neural replay of waking activity appears during sleep, like a rat's hippocampus running a maze again in compressed time. But without language, we can't directly access dream experience. We can infer mechanisms. We must be cautious about assuming narrative. An animal may dream in a way that is more like sensory-motor rehearsal than story. Or it may have something closer to our cinematic experience. The honest answer is, we don't fully know. Now I want to slow down here, because this is where the science pivots into something personal. If waking perception is already a controlled hallucination, an internal model constrained by sensory data, then dreams are what that model looks like when the constraint loosens. You are watching the generative engine in near isolation. In waking life, reality pushes back. You predict the floor will hold you, you step, the sensory feedback confirms. You predict a cup will feel cool, you touch it, the nerves report back. The world corrects you. That correction is a kind of mercy. It keeps you tethered. In dreaming, the tether is thinner. The brain still predicts. But now the prediction is its own confirmation. The model feeds itself. The result can be gorgeous. It can be terrifying. It can be nonsense that somehow hits you in the chest like truth. So here's the takeaway model I think survives the audit best, without pretending we've solved the mystery. Dreams are a nightly reality audit. Not a cosmic message. Not mere noise. A biological process where the brain runs simulations to update its internal model, triage emotional salience, and test behavioral expectations when the external world is mostly offline. Salience is a word that can sound clinical, so let's make it human. Salience is what your brain underlines. It's the moments it circles in red. The awkward look you can't forget. The near miss on the highway. The message you didn't send. The joy that surprised you. Dreams may be the mind's way of asking, what mattered enough today to deserve processing in the dark? This is why I urge practical humility about dream symbols. Don't overmystify them. A dream dictionary won't save you. But don't dismiss them either. Treat dreams as signals about what your system flagged as unresolved or emotionally charged. Not prophecy, priority. And there's a seasonal, almost ancient resonance to this. Winter nights are long. Across history, humans have used darkness for reflection, for stories, for fear, for intimacy. Before electric light, the night was a laboratory of the inner world. Dreams may be the oldest private experiments we've ever run, simulations conducted behind the eyelids while the tribe slept and the fire dimmed. So here's the invitation I want to leave you with. The next dream you have is not a message from the universe. It's a message from a prediction machine trying to keep you alive, coherent, and human. Synthesis. In one breath, dreaming emerges from identifiable sleep states and neuromodulators. It reflects a brain that is vivid on the inside and less constrained by executive reality checking. And the best theories converge on a core idea. Dreams are simulations that help manage memory, emotion, and expectation, even if the stories we remember are partly the mind painting meaning onto mechanics. Now the contemplative takeaway. Tonight, when you turn off the lights, imagine this. Your brain is about to build a world for you out of fragments. And in that world you will believe. You will care. You may fear. You may love. Ask yourself, gently, what does it mean that your sense of real is something your nervous system can manufacture? And if it can manufacture reality at night, what parts of your waking reality are also constructions you've simply agreed to live inside? And the next great question, the door we haven't opened yet, is this. If time and dreams can stretch, fold, and fracture, what does that say about time and waking life, and about the memories you hold most dear? If you want to keep going, I've placed a video on the end screen that takes this conversation one step deeper. Click it and stay in this session while the question is still warm. And I want to hear from you. Do your dreams feel more like emotional processing, threat rehearsal, or pure surreal randomness? Answer in one sentence. And if you subscribe, do it for a specific reason. This channel is a place where we don't just learn facts, we audit reality's biggest claims, together, with rigor and wonder. New investigations land here every week.